had someone comment to me at Rap who was on the crew. It was like, man, this is like a vacation I took and I got paid for it. And that is in large part due to the lake environment, the party environment, how laid back everything was, the poker run, the events around the lake. I think, in my opinion, if you take care of your people, they will be more inclined to take care of you, no matter what the stress level is. And it also comes with an understanding that if you're stressing someone, you're stressing, you gotta take care of them just as much as you're stressing them. I think if you're stressing out your crew, but you're not taking care of them, I think that that stress is gonna impact the quality of their work. We want people who wake up every single day excited to work with us. We want them energized, we want them feeling good every single day, no matter what kind of stressors we're talking about on set. We try to put essential information only on the call sheets. I think some call sheets are a little bit overloaded with information. You're talking about a page that's like this long, that's like every little white space on there has something on it. I think when that happens, people miss things, people skim or they don't read. So we try to convey essential information only. We did not have a lot of conflict on this set, thankfully. If something did come up though, I try to handle things privately. Sets are very busy, very public. I personally have witnessed very public disputes on sets, and I don't think they make anybody look good. And the secondhand embarrassment for me personally is just like, I don't want to do it. So if there ever was a conflict, and if we ever did resolve it, the ideal way to do that would be in such a way that nobody really knows that it happened, other than the parties involved. We were flexible pretty much wherever we could afford to be. Meaning, some things that you can't change, like you can't overhaul the story on set, you can't overhaul a character's motivations on set because that may have impact on things that you've already shot. But we were very flexible on logistics. We tried to design the schedule to where we had multiple options, multiple avenues if we needed to make a change. I made 3 feature films as a student toward the tail end of high school and while I was in college. I shot, directed, produced, and edited almost every one of those movies. And it was a lot. It stressed me out. I've never been more stretched thin in my life than I was on those 3 movies. And I'm proud of the product because it led to some connections that were really instrumental in getting Hillbilly Hoosiers made. But it doesn't change the fact that I was in an unsustainable work pattern. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't enjoy it, but there comes a point where you just have to let some things go. And some things that I let go for Hoosiers was a lot of the creative components to it, mostly due to the fact that I am not a comedian. I don't look at myself as a very funny person. I think I'm pretty serious and pretty robotic, and I think that the best area for someone of that personality type on a comedy is pretty confined to logistics and management. I really enjoyed letting the creative people create, and I really enjoyed staying in my lane as far as the business and administrative stuff. One thing that really helped us prevent burnout was being on the location that we were. I had someone comment to me at Rap who was on the crew. It was like, man, this is like a vacation I took and I got paid for it. And that is in large part due to the lake environment, the party environment, how laid back everything was, the poker run, the events around the lake. We would do crew dinners. For me, the whole process kind of lost its excitement when we wrapped. Personally, I had such a good time shooting it. It was so fun. One of the most pleasurable professional experiences of my life was being on set for those 2 weeks. And we had a lot of momentum going into post-production, but just going from being on set, being in the trenches with the cast and crew, to then just basically being alone in my office handling post-production, it's a huge change in energy. It's definitely not as fun, not as interesting, not as captivating when you're talking about attention span and priorities. And so the way that we kept going was staying excited for cuts of the episodes that the editor would send us, working on our marketing strategy, working on plans for season 2. Those are all things that kept our energy up going into the off season, so to speak. I think the difference between a crew that fights for it versus a crew that just works is passion. Do you have people on set who are passionate about the product? Do you have people on set who care a lot about doing things the right way, doing things well, and of high quality, versus people who are there to get a paycheck? And I think one of the indirect consequences of running with a low budget is you filtered out a lot of the people who would have just been there to get a paycheck, because they're gonna just go somewhere else to get a higher paycheck than what we could have offered. And so we had people who genuinely cared about making a good product, producing a good show. And I think that that really is demonstrated when you watch the episodes. Jackson Colvin was a first-time director. He wrote the show, of course, and he has been a writer for as long as I've known him, but he's never directed anyone on set before. And so one of my anxieties on the first day was seeing how he would handle duties that would normally be duties that a director would normally have. And I won't say that I micromanage, but I definitely was watching to see how he would handle certain things that you would think a director would handle. And he killed it. I think it would come as a surprise to most people on that set to learn that he was a first-time director. Like anything else, for the first time there were some growing pains, but one of my favorite collaborator moments was realizing that I really and truly could just sit back and let Jackson direct the show. I think a non-negotiable for anyone who wants to join the show in the future would be loyalty. Are you going to stay with us when things get rough? I mean, we do our best, but it's not pretty 100% of the time. And one of the greatest personality aspects of people that we want to try to recruit and be on the show is loyalty. It's really easy to stay with someone when things are going well, but are you going to stick around when things are going bad? That's the question. Compensation is interesting. Some people want credit. I am someone that is okay not receiving credit for things. Obviously, everyone that's involved with the show gets a credit. Everyone that's involved with the show gets paid. Not every indie actually pays their cast and crew. I'm pretty proud that we do that. Even if it's something that's as basic as paying people who work for you, I'm really proud that our company is in a place where we can afford to do that. Some people intentionally turn down a low paying rate and alternatively took a little bit of ownership in the show because they see a higher ceiling of financial ROI than what they would have been paid as a low rate up front. We had 3 people who worked totally for free but have equity in the company, and we don't make that offer to everyone because, you know, like we don't want to dilute our own ownership. But for the people who do take that offer, I think it speaks volumes of what kind of potential they see in us when they decide that they would actually turn down cash up front and then take ownership in the company for a higher potential of cash later on. Well, everybody on a set is important, right? Everybody there has a job to do, and the product suffers when that job isn't done. That being said, there were 3 people who were around since day one. First being Jackson Colvin, writer and director. We hired Jackson back in January of 2024. And for those keeping score at home, we didn't shoot until June 2025. And so we were developing the story and the characters for about a year and a half. And so Jackson is an OG. We had Alex Schlegel, who played Johnny. He acted in my student films, and he has been part of this since day one as well. We always knew who his character Johnny was gonna be. We always knew what that personality was gonna look like. We always had an idea of what kind of performance we were looking for out of Alex. And on Alex's end, he was so excited to tell the story and play his character. It's a perfect fit, I think, for an actor and a character. You know, you talk about actors who are born to play a certain character. I wouldn't go so far as to say that Alex was born to play Johnny, because he's a very versatile actor and he could probably play almost any role that he wanted to. But I can't think of a single actor, whether one who we could realistically afford or an A-list Hollywood actor, who would have played Johnny better than Alex. And the last person who was there since day one is John George, second AD, associate producer. I met John working on a bunch of Lifetime sets down in Louisville, Kentucky. We got to be pretty good friends. We were PAs together. We came up PAing together. And that dynamic that existed already from other sets while we were PAs translated seamlessly onto this set because we knew how we worked. We both had ideas that were pretty similar as far as how sets should be run, what kind of culture we want to instill with people who are working with us. But every one of us wanted to do this show, but we could not have done it without the other three. We kept the tone of the show consistent by just being conscious of how many cooks were in the kitchen. We let Jackson have creative control, and I would step in sometimes, but it would only to be like, hey, like you can't actually do this at this location because they don't have this item or this feature on their property, but here's an alternative instead that helps maintain the integrity of the story. That was the role I played. I provided the locations for Jackson's use in his stories, and so sometimes I would give notes that had more to do with like, hey, by the way, this property is set up in such a way that if you wanted to do this scene that way, you can do it, or here's some other options. I really tried not to overstep creative notes, character development notes, overall story notes, and things like that. We would have some marketability notes, but otherwise, Jackson was allowed to be the creator of the show. And some of the cast would contribute ideas that were relevant to their characters, but otherwise, there was really one centralized voice in the creative direction of the show, and that was Jackson Coleman. Season 1 was proof, for me personally, that good leaders can still be effective while stepping back and letting their talented people take over and do their things. I didn't feel going into it that our cast and crew would need a lot of oversight on our part. I was shocked though at how automatically and independently things were able to operate without me or John or Jackson being there to oversee it directly. I think that the strength from this season is also a weakness, one and the same. I've always been someone that, not for a lack of having trust in people, I just like to be involved in the process. I like to do things, I like to be part of the process, I like to be on set, I like to be in the trenches, I like to be working with the guys, being a teammate. I originated this project and it's one of my babies, and I, like any parent, so to speak, I want to be involved. But learning to let things go, learning to let the talent and the cast and the crew do their thing and breathe without me being down their neck, that was a very valuable lesson. And the way that everyone performed was proof that our sets can function that way. The mental cost of producing a show is giving up a full night's sleep until wrap, basically. I think I was averaging around 4.5 hours of sleep a night, and usually I'm getting 6 to 7 when I'm not shooting. There's just so much that goes into it that people don't see. When something comes up, the buck stops at you. The buck stops at the executive producer. If there's an issue, either the executive producer handles it or whoever they delegated to handle such issues will handle it. And on this set, it was pretty much just myself and John George that were, handling things that would come up. And it could be easy things like someone needs a code for an Airbnb or whatever, that they can call me and John up. Usually on bigger sets, there would be someone like a coordinator who is designated to handle things like that. And we couldn't really afford that type of help on this set. And so John and I tag teamed those types of things. And so basically being accessible 24/7 for the duration of the shoot is a responsibility of the EP, and it's the only time in my life that I've really ever slept with my ringer on. The emotional toll, the emotional costs that executive producers need to pay is really, it's detachment. It's the ability to feel nothing when things are going bad or when things are going well. It's the ability to stay level. It's the ability to be the same guy every single day. I think it's important to create an expectation that people are going to be dealing with the same person day in and day out, no matter how well things are going or no matter how bad things are going. It's important to me personally. It's a priority of mine that no one is going to be asking themselves like, oh, how is he going to react to this, whether something good or bad is happening. What I would tell myself the night before the first shoot day is that everything is going to go well and you're going to get everything that you need, and I would leave it at that. I would leave it at that. That's all that he would need to know. Hey everybody, I'm Ben Richards, founder of Intravision and executive producer of Hillbilly Hoosiers. To keep up with everything that we're doing and to grab merch from our store, follow or subscribe at intravision.us or visit intravision.us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Watch the show, you'll see that there is a story that takes place from the first episode to the last episode. We call that the season arc, the through line. Each episode also contains a one-off story. Every episode should be able to stand on its own two legs, narratively and comedically.